Hey guys, here's a quick intro to Revisions, a new super easy to use Git client that runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux and can connect to both GitHub, Beanstalk, or really any remote server you like for that matter. So for the non-technical folks out there, what this is basically a really easy way to keep track of how your files change over time, so you can view or revert back to earlier versions really with just a simple click of a button. Let me show you how it works. When you first launch Revisions, you'll likely get this dialog box to install something called Git. Git is a small library that runs underneath the application and helps us keep track of a file's history. Now, if you're a developer, you probably already have Git installed, in which case Revisions will attempt to find your instance of it and use it. But if it can't find it for some reason, or if you're not a developer, just go ahead and click OK. This will prompt you for your password. Go ahead and enter it and click OK, and the installer will do its thing. This should really only take a few seconds. Okay, now we're ready to start tracking files, or bookmarks as we call them. So there's two ways to tell Revisions about files you want to start tracking. The easiest way is to just drag a file or folder into the app from, say, your desktop. So here on my desktop, I have this Photoshop file called Simple Comp. If I open it up, you can see it's just a one-layer PSD with a green layer. I'm going to drag this into the app to tell Revisions I want to start watching this file. I'll get a prompt to give it a name, just click OK, and Revisions will create a new bookmark. Now if I click this History button, we can view changes to this file since we started tracking it. Since we just added it, we only have this one entry saying it was saved a few seconds ago. So let's go over to Photoshop and make a quick change to the file. I'm just going to add a new layer and fill it with blue. Now I'm going to hit save inside of Photoshop, and when I move back over to Revisions, we can see that the app has detected that the file has changed. So here we can click the Save button, which will give us a box where we can type in a note about this latest change we just made. I click OK, and a new entry is added to this bookmark's history. Now you're probably already thinking, well, that sounds tedious. Why would I want to save the file twice? And the answer is you're not actually saving the file twice. You're just telling Revisions why the file has changed. So if you ever need to go back to an earlier version, you now have a meaningful list of descriptions instead of v1, v2, v3, etc. Now if you don't care about providing a description of the change, you can just go into the settings for this bookmark and click Autosave, and Revisions will automatically add a new history entry with the timestamp whenever it checks if the file has changed. Now it's worth pointing out that if it hasn't changed, it won't do anything. Also, right now that interval is set to check every hour, but soon that'll be user-defined, so you can have Revisions check, say, every 10 minutes or whenever you want. So we've got two entries in the history for this file. Let's say at some point we screwed something up in our Photoshop document and we need to get something back from an earlier version. Over here we have this download button, which will let us view a copy of this file as it existed in an earlier state. So let's get a copy of what it looked like when we just had that green layer. I'll choose to save it to my desktop, and now you can see we have a second PSD here, which if I open up, looks just like it did when we first started. This is a great way to break that habit where you're saving multiple copies of the exact same file in some folder and labeling them V2, V3, V4, V4 client approved, etc. This gets you away from all that nonsense, knowing that if you ever need an earlier version, you can just click that download button and the older version of the file is there. So let me get rid of this copy and show you how Revisions can also work with entire folders of content. Now the second way you can add files or folders to the app is by clicking this new bookmark button up here in the top right corner. From here you have a few possibilities, including the option to copy files from a remote location, which I'll talk about in a future video. But for now we're just going to add a folder, and I'll select this work stuff folder here on my desktop. Revisions creates a new bookmark and we're ready to go. Now I'm going to go over to my work stuff folder and get rid of a few things. Let's say we don't need this my stuff folder, and let's trash this flash file. Okay, now we'll swing back over to Revisions, and you can see that the app has detected that the contents of the folder have changed. So I'm going to say here, deleting some stuff. Click OK, and now we have a new history entry. Now of course let's suddenly realize the next day that hey, I needed something in that folder we deleted. So here we can select this revert button, which will return the entire contents of the folder back to how it looked at this earlier point in time. We'll get this warning, which is important to note, that by selecting revert, we are agreeing to throw away any future changes we made after the time that we are reverting back to. So we'll say yes, and the history now updates itself with those other future entries removed. Now let's go back to our work stuff folder, and we can see that those files we deleted have magically reappeared. So those are the basics of Revisions to hopefully get you up and running. We are still in active development, so if you'd like to get involved and help us beta test, we'd love to have your help. Just drop us an email on our site and we'll get you a build to play with straight away. If you have any questions, suggestions, or if you discover any bugs, also please let us know, as we'd love to have your feedback. Okay, great. Thanks a lot for watching.